Hello, everyone. Welcome to our masterclass, the Python Masterclass by the KingbuWorldView. Before we start anything, I would like to know where you are joining us from. If you are joining us from the UK, from the US, and our very own nation, Ghana, let us know where you are joining us from Accra, Kumasi, Cape Coast, all those who showed interest and registered in various places. This is the right place you have to be. And so I'm waiting and counting on you all to write your names and where you are coming from with us. So we are doing that exercise in the next 3 minutes. Let's do that and then let's get to work. All right, so with our viewers joining in, we'll go straight into our tasks for today. We are looking at how best we can build solutions for our nations, for ourselves, and then automate tasks as AI is doing. And so let's view in directly, and we will start by introducing ourselves once again. Let's introduce ourselves in the chat and then let's engage one another. Let us get to know where you are joining us from and then we will take it from there. So my name is Kingsley Buabe and I'll be your tutor for today. My name is Kingsley Buabe. You can call me Kingsley for short or Kimbu. So those joining us from the other parts of Ghana that knows me, please let's connect together. So I'm actually an AI engineer and a machine learning engineer at Accent Corporation. I have an experience in programming and I believe that anyone here, you are at the right place. So please hold on and stay glued to your phones or your PCs and then let's learn together. But looking at Africa, looking at Ghana, why did we start this initiative? This initiative started, or this initiative was being bet out as a result of problems that we do recognize in our communities. And so I realized that there are times that people are having the knowledge, they have the understanding to build something, but they lack the implementation or they lack the ability to bring whatever they have in their minds into existence. And so that is the reason why I organized this special class for you guys to be able to know what exactly you have to do. We all know that computer is anything that helps us do work easier and faster, right? And so we are going to solve solutions using this computer that we've been learning about and we've been talking about. And so let's look at the mission and vision of the KingbuWorldView. And you will recognize that we are bridging the gap between knowledge and then implementation. We are equipping African professionals in every field with technology to build solutions for their own problems. Everyone has him or herself, they have different and diverse problems. And so you are the one going to solve that. I'm not the one going to solely solve that problem. You are the one solely responsible for that. And so we are going to do that together. And also with our vision is very simple. An African that builds its own solutions by its people. So that is the grand, or that is the big picture we are looking at this point in time. And we get to recognize that Africa does not have knowledge problem, but Africa has an implementation gap. And so we are the ones to bridge that gap. If you are here joining us, kindly write your name and then tell us where you are joining us from. We would really appreciate that a lot. And then also, we get to see that we are cutting across all sectors of work, all sectors of life. We want everybody to be inclusive, and then we are looking at one of the major sectors, that is agriculture. We have farmers. We want farmers in Ghana, farmers in Africa to know and build their own solutions. And so you know that farmers know Ghanaian soil. They know how plants are able to better from the soil very well, more than these foreign companies. And so we are equipping people to be able to build solutions for Africa. When you look at doctors, doctors are also people that can build patient track record system for the geared towards goal that they are looking at. And we also have accountants in there. We also have teachers. Teachers, at this point in time, we are looking at how we can use AI, we can use these tech materials to be able to build solutions and then bring out good results for our students. And so that is one key thing also. And then as well as the HR professionals. So if you're an HR professional, you know that how to get recruitment or how to get more employees in your organization counts solely on how you are able to scrutinize and then screen faster. And so we build solutions so that we'll be able to make such problems being kept. And so you will know that we all have understanding about the problem, but one of the things that we are going to look at is taking one course, taking one language, taking one thing that would help us to bridge that gap. And so that is why we are here today. So if you are joining us again, kindly let us know where you are coming from, your name and the place you are joining us from. All right, so I've been like you guys before. Somebody is watching me thinking a lot of things. Why did I join this Python Masterclass? Come on, take it easy. So you joined this Python Masterclass. I am entreating you that you focus on your screens, and then by the end of the class, you would really enjoy it. So you're asking yourself, I've been like this before. You are just guessing, what am I going to learn? Will I be able to stay focused? Will I be able to practice after everything that is being taught? You are at the right place. You know something? There are times that I had such problem. I saw people doing stuff, and then I thought that I would never pave way through such field. But here I am today. That's why I'm encouraging you to stay glued to your phones and your PCs, and then let's build something real together. And so before that, I would like us to know the roadmap for tonight. We have the Python roadmap, we have the beginners, we have the intermediate, and then the advanced. But today we are going to look at the beginner side. We are going to talk about variables, we are going to talk about control flow statements, data types, and then functions. And then we'll get into the intermediate class, where we would have a special class for that. And then we would also get to learn exceptions. OOP is actually object-oriented programming. So Python is actually an object-oriented programming. When you look at that, we'll be talking about encapsulation, we'll be talking about polymerism, we are going to talk about inheritance, and other relevant factors in there. And then we will also look at files. We'll look at how we can handle files. We can look at how, most especially with data analysis and data scientists, how they are able to handle files, how they are able to know records, they are able to track records or any relevant tasks that they are being given to. And then we'll also look at the advanced Python. So advanced Python is how you are able to call some API. So API is application programming interface, where other apps are able to talk to one another. So maybe you want to build an app, or you want to build a system where, let's take for instance, a weather application. You need not to build everything from scratch. So we have some programs, existing programs that you can call an API of the weather. We have free tiers, we have paid tiers. You can use that for your project without you going up and down looking for solutions for your project. And so we are going to all look at that in our advanced class. And then we'll also look at testing. So we'll do that too. And then web scraping. So if you're a journalist here or any other relevant field, and then you have to gather information for your newsfeed, you need this application, you need this skill to be able to gather information from that and then build great solutions. And so, what are we here to build together today? We are looking at Python foundations. We are going to touch Python foundations, variables, data types, print statements, input, and then we are also going to look at if and else statements, control statements, and then we are going to look at functions, loops, and then we'll have a live project, and then we will take the next immediate steps. So then, let's again interact. Let us know where you are joining us from. Let us know where you are connecting with us from. All right. So then, what is Python? What is Python? What is Python? What is Python? When we say Python, what does it mean? Python is actually a language that was birthed out from a particular programmer whose name is what? Van Ransom, Guido Van Ransom, in 1991. So he realized that there were a lot of languages that existed, and then people were having the ability to code in that language. But he realized that it was too difficult for them. And then they were finding it difficult to grasp that knowledge in that, because computers were able to rather understand that language rather than humans. And then we are all humans here, and then we are communicating with computers. And so we needed a language that we can use to be able to communicate with the computers. And then this man came about this whole language and made it simpler for people to use, made it easier and beginner friendly. And so if you are here and you've not written any code before, know that you are at the right place, because Python has got you. And so let's look at why it was named after Python. Python, we are not talking about the snake Python. We are talking about Monty Python. It's a comedy show that he loved and then named it after that. And then we get to see that Python is the #1 programming language in the world. From 2024 to 2025 statistics, we have Python as the leading language in the world. And then we also get to see that Python is being used in various sectors. It's being used by various companies. We have Google, we have Netflix. We get to see how Google is the grandmaster of all information and research. And so that is basically for that. And then we have Netflix, we have Instagram, we have Spotify, we have NASA, and then we have the almighty ChatGPT. Some of us have been able to build solutions using ChatGPT. Have you been able to consider the bedrock of what was being used to build that? And then that's where we come in as newbies. So we get to see that Python was used to build ChatGPT. All right, so Python was made for us in English form so that we'll be able to code in that regard. So let's look at why we are learning Python. Why Python today? Why Python? We get to see that Python is powerful and very simple. Python is very powerful and very simple. Python is being used everywhere and in everything. When you look at automations, when you look into the web, when you look into gaming, these high-end gaming machines or gaming applications that we see, GTA 5, FIFA, these are all included in as Python products. And then we have data science, as earlier mentioned. And then why do we need Python? Python has a very large community. So whenever you get stuck, you have a lot of people to run through or to run to give you the solution that you need. And then also you get to see that we have a lot of tutorials on Python. And so there are tons of tutorials on Python on YouTube, right? And then you can find them and study and do anything and then build solutions. But I will entreat you that because this is a language, and then when you are learning a language, you will need one specific tutor to be able to guide you through that. I have been through that journey where I was watching different tutorials, and then I realized one thing, that I needed just one person to guide me through. And then today, you are having me here standing before you as the first tutor, or maybe multiple people, some people have been taught Python before, but if I'm the first person to teach you Python, then I would entreat you to make sure that this course that we are having would be one of the key things that you take note of, and then advanced courses that we'll be having. So take note of that too. And we have a lot of libraries for Python. So Python has a lot of libraries that we can use. We have Panda, we have Panda, we have NumPy, we have scikit-learn, and we have matplot. So these are all libraries from Python that you can use to be able to build or to be able to clean your data, especially with data scientists, machine learning engineers, AI engineers, and other relevant fields. And then Python is being used in other projects in GitHub. So in our bootcamp and other classes, we'll be having to use, or we'll be taught how to use GitHub to be able to connect with other developers on board, and then we'll get to see how tech is thriving also in there. And then Python is being used massively in AI. So we get to see that AI being one of the masterpieces in the current world that we live in. We get to see that Python is being used in AI to train models, to train models to help in computer vision, and then to also help in advanced computing, as well as theory of computations. And then Python is in a high demand. And so if you are learning this and you are asking yourself, where will I use this thing in? What will I use it for? Let me tell you something right here. Python is in a higher demand. A lot of developers are being needed in the field of Python. We have Anthropic coming in as needing a lot of machine learning engineers, as well as NVIDIA. So these companies are massive companies. So Anthropic has its product called Claude. I believe we all know about Claude. So Claude is one of the large LLMs that we have that is very powerful and then does complex tasks very well. And so yes, let's get straight into our work. We get to see that we want to communicate with the computer, right? And the computer, we are telling the computer, hey, computer, please compute or calculate 5 plus 5 for me. You are giving instructions to the computer, but the computer doesn't understand, right? And so we need a language to talk to the computer. So what do we do then? We introduce, so let's say we have our 5 plus 5. For us, we know that 5 plus 5 is 10. But for the computer doesn't know that 5 plus 5 is 10. So we need a language. We need an interpreter in that sense. We need an interpreter for the computer to be able to understand that. And so we introduce what we call the Python language. We have so many languages. We have C, C++, we have JavaScript. We have tons of programming language. But we want to use a particular language to introduce to the computer, and then the computer too understands that language. And so we are saying that print 5 plus 5 for me, right? 5 plus 5. So we are telling computer print 5 plus 5, and then it will give us the result in our output. So we have in our console right in here, that's going to give us 10. So that's basically for that. So this is our console or our terminal. In some cases, it's being used as terminal. And so let's look at why Python is one of the leading programming languages that I want us to focus on. So you get to see that, all right. So you get to see that Python is actually in a high demand because Python is using normal English language to help us understand machine or to help us understand the computer. And so when you look at the number of points in here, we have the high level language. We have the so natural natural language. So natural language, we have either English, we have Ewe, we have Fanti, we have Ashanti. That any language that you know is a natural language, your natural language. So we have that in there. And then we have a high-level language. So this high-level language is for us to be able to communicate to the computer. And then we can see that Python is part of the high-level language, and JavaScript is also part of the high-level language. And we have the low-level language. In fact, low-level language would have been easier for us to understand, but it is difficult, easier for the computer to understand, but it is difficult for humans to understand. Why? Because we have computer understanding in binary digits. Binary digits. And then binary digits, we have zeros and ones, right? 0 and 1. So these two numbers are what computer translates. So for instance, if you are asking what is Kofi doing, now the computer is unable to understand this text. So what does the computer do? There is a process that this text goes through before it is being translated into this binary digit for the computer to understand. And so that is what we are looking at. And so we have some of the low-level languages as C. We have assembly. Assembly is one of the big languages that is being used to build some powerful tools in the 80s and then in the centuries. And then we have C++ too as part of, C++ is a high-level language, actually. It was built on C. So that is that. And then we have the machine language where there's the zeros and ones, right? Now let's look at how Python works, because what we are doing, we have to know what or how Python works. Let's go straight into that. But before that, please, if you are joining us, kindly let us know where you are joining us from, your name, and then where you are joining us from. Okay, I can see my brothers from Russia. I can see my brothers from Ghana, Accra, Kelvin. I'm seeing Hannah from Tesano. I'm seeing Samuel. I'm seeing Otu George. Yes, I'm seeing Stanley. And then I'm seeing quite few people. That is very, very great. God bless you all for joining. I believe that we are going to build solutions together. All right. And then we get to see that the next thing is how Pythons work. So how do Pythons work? Or how do Python work? So we have a script. We have a script. All right. All right. So we have the script in here. Right? You write your Python script, is also known as a source code. And so this is the high-level language. High-level language. And then we want to talk to the computer, right? So this is the computer. And let me say, this is the user. Right? We write our Python script, and then we want to talk to the computer. But how do we talk to the computer? There should be an interpreter, somebody who interprets the language for us. So if you see that, for instance, you go to some occasions and then you see that somebody understands French, and then let's say a preacher man speaks English, but the people there understand French, there should be an interpreter for the congregant, so that they will be able to understand what the preacher man is saying. In that same case, we have the script here. You write your own script. Now it interprets and then gives it to the computer in a low level. Sorry, it gives it in a machine code or a machine language. And so we can see that in that interpreter, there are three things that happen in there. We have the compiler that compiles whatever thing you have here, And so before you can build another language or a programming language, you should know the compiler that you are going to use. And the compiler converts it to bytecode. So bytecode is then a low-level language, and then it's being transferred to a virtual machine. And then the virtual machine, we have multiple libraries for that. We have the OS. So in our advanced class, we would be importing some OS in our works, and then I will entreat you to be part of that. And then also from there, so from our virtual environment, virtual machine, RAS. So I'm actually going ahead of myself. So in our advanced class, we'll be looking at virtual environment in there. So we have virtual machine. This compiles it. After the compiler, it moves into the multiple libraries that we have, and then it generates a machine code for the computer to understand, zeros and ones. As easy as that. I believe that we are all following. Please, let's continue. So before we get to the foundations of Python, let's take a 30 seconds break. Then we'll come again. 30 seconds break, 30 seconds break. If you are joining us, kindly get your network well. 30 seconds break, 30 seconds break. All right, so welcome back. Let's continue with our class. We are looking at Python. So in our earlier section, we realized that Python is being used in different settings of work. It's being used in different diverse works and different sectors. And then we are also looking at how we can build solutions using the language Python. We got to realize that Python is a high-level language. And then we also got to see that Python has the ability to build big solutions like this big LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and then it is in a high demand. And so if you are here watching us today, make sure you stay glued to your phones and then your mobile, your laptop, sorry. So please, let's go directly into our next session, that is learning about Python fundamentals of Python foundations. So in Python, there are things that we need to know in Python. Every language has its own alphabet, right? And every language has its own punctuations, and then has its own syntax, and then rules, and everything that needs in a language. In that same case, we are borrowing the same thing in Python. So Python is actually in English. For us, we are fortunate, we have it in English. In other parts of the world, they have translated that in their language. But we are going to use that in English. And Python is very simple and easy to use. So let's go inside. We have types of data that we see in Python. For you to be able to build something, you should know the type of data you are dealing with. And so we have no value data type, we have the single value data type, and then we have the multi-values data types, that is list, tuple, set, dictionary, and arrays. So in this course, we are going to look strictly into the single value data types. That is, in the numeric side, we have the int, float, and complex. We are going to highlight in int, we are going to highlight float, and then we also have string, we have bool, we have date and time. But for the date and time, we will do that in the next and immediate class. So then let's look at the building blocks of the data types that we have in Python. We have in here string. A string is a data type that has text. A string is a data type that has text. So for instance, we have Kwame is a text. Kofi is a text. So one key or one tip I can give you in there is any word you know. Any word you know is a string. Any word that exists is a string. But in Python, there is one thing that we need to identify strings in. We just introduce something like the double quote for a string, right? It is either a double quote or a single quote. You can use this or this, however, depending on the work that you are doing. If you have a text like this, let's say Kwame's shoe is missing, right? In this case, we have this like this, and then Kwame's shoe is missing. If we are to run this program, we'll realize that there would be an error. So let's try running such program like this, and then we'll take it from there. All right. So please, if you are joining us, I would want you to get to work. But before that, let's run a simple prompt in here. So let me take, for instance, yeah. Please, if you can see my screen, kindly let us know in the chat. So we have in here, let's say we want to print something. We have in here the double single quote, sorry. We have the single quote, Kwame's all right. All right. And so in our program like this, we have an error and a syntax error. Why? Because Python is finding it difficult to understand what is really happening here. And so we have this as a quote in there. So Python is running from Kwame in here as the solution. But we don't want that. And so we would then introduce the double quote in here and then see whether we'll be able to have that. So when we introduce our double quote and then print, we'll see that we have Kwame's shoe is missing. Please hold on. If you think that I've started with the work, I've not started yet. This is actually for us to see demonstration. So I'm going to show you when to open your tab on your laptop, and then we can take it from there. So this is an illustration. And so that's basically for that. We'll get to work very soon. We'll get to work very soon. Okay. So the next data type is integer. We all know about integer, or we understand integer as single or whole numbers, right? And then whole numbers can be positive or negative, right? And so we have integer in here as the second data type. So we have our data type string. The first one, string. We have two. We have the integer. So string has to be in what? Quote. In quote. Text. Let's say text in quote. And then we have integer. Integer is whole numbers. So any number that you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on the preference that you are using or the work that you are doing, it is an integer. And then we also have one interesting thing here, or one interesting data type here, which is float. So anything that deals with decimals, we consider it as float. So currencies, provisional, stock of prices, these are all float. And then we have decimals in there. So float, which is the third single value data type, is having what? A decimal. In other programming languages, we also have, even in Python, we have the double in there. So the double can take a place value up to 16 decimal places. So we can have 27.01235, or any other number up to 16. It can hold up to 16. But for float, we can take up to 7 decimal places, right? And so that is one of the key things that you should take note of. And then the last one is true or false. Most of us have been able to use true or false in kindergarten. We were giving works, and God is this, God is a supernatural being, true or false. Then we choose true. And other relevant questions that we were being given to as individuals. So Boolean talks about true or false only. And so we will look into that, the or that we have in Boolean. We'll get to see that in Boolean, or in natural applications, we get to see that or means that one of the statements, at least one. So at least one of the statements must be true or false, right? At least one must be true. So if we have an option 0 or 1, let's say, 0 or 1, between these two, one must be the answer. And so that is the use of that. In other, as we progress, we'll be talking about some operators, and we'll be talking about some other relevant stuff. And then let's go to an interesting thing right here. So we have these 4. Please take note of that. Boolean, which is represented as boo, right? So we have bool in here. And then, all right. So I want us to lay the foundations and understand what we are doing before we get into programming or we get into coding. I don't want us to rush into that and then later on we wouldn't be able to know what is happening. And so string is actually being represented in a code, or you can have it in short as str, right? And then we also have int as int, integer as int, and then we have float. Float is being used as same. You can actually write the full character or the full word. But if you want your program to be simplified and stuff, you can use str. So in your note, you can write that in your note, str, int as integer. Integer is whole numbers. Float is for decimal numbers. So anything that deals with a point in there, it is considered as a float. This is the fundamental, or this is the foundation of whatever thing that we are going to learn. And so everything that we are going to learn is going to be based on these 4. So I want us to take critical look at this and understand whatever thing is happening. And then the last one, that is Boolean, is bool. We use bool to determine whether true or false. And so the next thing that we are going to look at is variables. I have simplified everything for us to understand. Variables are actually labeled boxes, or labeled box that help us to store something. And so, for instance, we have a box right in here. We have a box right in here. So the box helps us to store something inside it. And so we are going to look closely into that. If we want to store a value, or if we want to store anything, we store it in a box. That is how Python works. And so we are going to try that. And then we get to realize that our Ghana card, we have our date of birth, our name, we have our IDs being stored as part of the variables that we have in there. So we are going to do a quick tutorial on that. But before that, I would want us to open our web browser right now. If you are with us, kindly open your web browser and search Google Colab. This is where the work begins. We've begun with the actual programming. So those who were asking about what's going on, this is it. So kindly let's open to our program. Let's go to Chrome or any search browser that you have. You can search for Google Colab, and then click or tap on it. With the first one that appears on your screen, we are going to have Google Colab. We click on it. We click on that. And then in our tab, we can see that we have examples, recent, Google Drive, GitHub, upload. So because it is our first work, we are going to use, or we are going to click on the new notebook. So click on a new notebook. Kindly click on a new notebook. Click on a new notebook, and then you can end this tab right here. Okay, so if you are done with that, kindly let us know in the chat. Kindly let us know in the chat. Few minutes. All right, so let's have this. Visit or type Google Colab as step 1. And then the first prompt that comes in, you click on that. And then we click on new. You see a pop-up. So on the pop-up screen, click new notebook. All right. Click new notebook. All right. Okay, so somebody is asking whether if you have an IDE, you can use that. Oh, yes. Those using Visual Studio Code or other IDEs, you can use it, PyCharm, be it PyCharm or JetBrains, or you can use that. You can use that. Yes, please, you can use that. You can use that. You can use that. Okay, so please let us know. All right, great. I'm seeing Samuel done. The next, please let us know in the comment section where you've gotten to. So I'm going to start with our first program. So let me add a mark here. And then, okay. All right, Mr. Patrick. Great. Okay. All right. So you can name this as Python class or my first code or any relevant name that you would want to use. So you can use either Python class. sorry, Python class. You have Python class. Okay. All right. So after you save it, and then we get to work. Please, this is the time for us to focus in here and then avoid distractions. Please let us know. Let's do that exercise in the next minutes. All right. Let us know in the chat. Let us know in the chat. Okay. Oh, be lifted. All right. All right. So let's continue. We have in here, we are looking at variables. We are saying that variables is a labeled box. So we want to store something in that box. That is how Python deals with ATAX and other relevant programming languages that exist. And so we have in here, let's say we have Kwame. We have names here, Kwame. We have Kofi. We have Mansa. So when you look at this closely, we can see that these are all names. And then these are classified under a particular data type. What data type is it being classified under? In the chat session, please let us know. What is this text in here being classified as? We can see that they are being classified under the string. However, they lack something. What do they lack? They lack the quotes. And so we need to put in quotes for these ones. And so let's say that Mansa is the place value. Mansa is the place value. Kofi is a place value. Kwame is a place value. Or Mansa is the string. Or Kofi is the string. But we want to store it in a particular container. So variable is, one more time, a particular container that we store a value inside. So how do we store a value in a container? This is where we introduce any other name, right? If you want to store something in your container, you use your own name. This is my container for my money. This is my container for my sugar, my Milo. It depends on you, depending on the task that you are building. And so let's say we want to name this as name 1, right? So name 1 is Kwame. But looking at this, we have name 1 being put together. We can have name 1 having a space. However, Python doesn't allow us to do that because Python deals with spaces, Python deals with indentation. So it is really, really key about that. If you are naming a variable, make sure you separate those words with either an underscore or you join them together, right? And so we can say that we have this as an underscore. So let's copy same and say that this is name 2. Name 2. And then we have the next one as name 3. So we have in here name 3, name 3, and then name 2, right? So name 1 is Kwame, name 2 is Kofi, name 3 is Mansa. In this, we have our variables having been name 1, name 2, name 3. And then their place values, irrespective of them, we have Kwame, Kofi, and then Mansa, right? So these are variables that are being created. And so I want you to create a variable of, so this is the task. I want you to create a variable. Please, those watching with us, kindly create a variable and name using the name, okay, box. So let me use a random name so that people don't get confused. So we have in here 20. We have 40 and then 50. I want you to create a variable for these numbers and then we'll store that in that. So you know one more time that variables, you can use your own name. We don't have restriction for that. You can use a particular name for yourself. Any other name you can use for that. And so we have the number 20, 40, and 50. And then you are creating a variable for that. So let's take, for instance, we want to create a variable for this. We are going to use what? Anything, any name. So let's say small, big, bigger, right? Or let's say biggest. I chose these words not because it is strict for us to use these words. You can use any word for yourself. You can use any word for a variable. But I would advise you that when you are using a variable, because in a program, it depends on how you will be calling that variable in the program. And we are going to look at functions in the next sessions. We will see that we would have to call this small again in some part of our code if we want to really see what this small is doing. And so we have in here name. Let's look at this example. We use name 1 as Kwame, name 2, Kofi, name 3, Mansa. But in Python, I would introduce you to something that it's worth knowing. So we are getting to see something called print. I think I wrote that earlier on. Print. To print something is to bring out something, right? We have input and what? Output. Right now, you've written a program. You want to see your program. How do you see your program? We use what? The print function to see what we've written, either in our terminal or in our console or any IDE that you are using. So, yes, so that's basically for that. So in Python, there is a function. So when we say function, function is a specific, or let's say a desired term that is used for building codes for reusability sake. So you want to use that thing again. So we build a function, we create a function for that. And then we have some inbuilt functions by Python. Python has created some functions for us, right? And so we can use that. And so we have in here our print function. So in our print function, in every function, we get to see that we have this curly bracket, parentheses, right? When you are given f of x, we say f of x is 2x plus 1, right? F of x, 2x plus 1. Right now, the function in here is this. This is the function, or g of x or h of x. This is the function. And then we are looking for something in here. That is what? X. And so in this placeholder right here, this is where we call out what we want to see. We want to see what? X. So we know that this is 2x plus 1. Now we are looking for x, right? So in that same sense, we are looking for the output right here. And so we print what we want to see in here. We want to see in here. And so we have in here, especially when you are working on some data like this, or some variables like this. So we are going to use the print function to see what name 1 is. When you are calling a function or when you are calling a variable, you don't call the place value of the variable because you've stored it inside a container. So let's say this is your container. This is your container, right? This is your box, right? So this box you've placed in here, Kwame. So you don't say that because Kwame is in the box is Kwame. No, that is not how it is being considered right here. Kwame is holding, or the box in here, that's name 1, is holding the place value of Kwame. And so that is what we are looking at. So let's go straight into that. We have in here print. We are printing our first output. So we have print, and then in here we can, okay, so this is suggesting something for us. In here we can either have name 1 calling name 1, or calling, let's say, name 2. But we can say that this, let's take for instance, this is let's say this is name 1. Name 1 underscore 1. And let's see whether we'll be able to print this. This is name 1. Let's see whether we'll be able to print this. It will connect soon. Whoa. So we are just hitting an error right here. So what is the error? So Python gives us the ability, or directs us what particularly is wrong with our code. So from here we can see that we have an error here. The error is telling us name error. So in our advanced classes, we'll be looking at types of error. We have syntax error, we have type error, we have other forms of error. And so we are looking at recursive error. They are all in there. This one is talking about name error. Why? Because it's saying that name Kwame is not defined. Why is it not defined? 1, Python runs code line by line. And so our first code, we have name Kwame, name 1 Kwame, name 2 Kofi, name 3 Mansa. And then on our 5th line, you can add spaces in there. So on our 5th line, we are seeing this is name 1, but it is not giving us the solution, or it is not giving us the output that we are looking at. And so what do we do then? We would have to look at this. This is actually a string, and we are actually adding a string to a variable. And so it wouldn't work. So what do we do then? We introduce something called f-strings. So f-strings means formatted string. Formatted f-string means formatted string. Formatted string. So in this case, we are adding an already existed variable to some variable, some text that we don't know. So what do we do then? We introduce an f here, and then we bring in here the codes that I spoke about. So let's try and run this and see whether we'll be able to get the answer again. Whoa, they are still giving us name error. So what is the problem right here? You could see that we are still having the string being formatted, but now it is considering the name 1, 2 as a string. So what do? We put, or we separate the variable still from the string. And so we have to put this in a curly bracket. We put name 1 in a curly bracket. Sorry. Yes. And now let's run our code and let's see whether we would be having that same thing. Whoa. So we have in here name 1 equals Kwame. We have Kofi, name not defined. So the string here is being called out. All right, so let's look at something here. We have name 1. So Python is considering as name not defined, right? And so we could see from here, Kwame is not being defined, right? We have Kofi here, we have Mansa, and then we are printing name 1. So name 1 is the underscore that we placed in there. So we are going to look at that, and then we'll call it off and see. We are still hitting that edge or that header right there. So what do we do then? let's call out name1 in here. So we have name1. Oh, sorry. Let's see name1. Okay. So, yes, one of the things that you would need to consider is that strings, especially when naming a variable, we have string and then we have int. So right now we are adding both string and then the int together. So we can name it name1 like this, and then name2 like this, and then have name3 like this, and then we have in here Kofi, Kwame, and then those joining us, are you still with us? Okay. All right, so we have in here this, and we have Kwame, Kofi, Mansa. We run the code. All right, so we can see that the name Kwame is not defined. So let's look at how we can call name1. All right. Okay. So we have in here Kwame and then name2, name3, all right. Okay. So in instantiating your point or your variable, you should know that your variable are always in string, right? So that's what we take note of, and then we see at. So let's go on to our main piece in here. So as part of that, we have name error. I want us to take note of the errors in here. We have name error, syntax error, right? So that's actually what we should take note of. And then it is giving us something very interesting in here. So I want us to take note of that, and then we get to see from there. And so from our classes in here, let's look at that. They are saying name error. So what would be the error? We earlier mentioned that we have a data type called string. Now, Python is seeing Kwame as what? Python is seeing Kwame as an int because we've not introduced the colon, or sorry, the, I think we can still have the, and then these are strings. So we have this, yeah. So let's call name1, whether we will be able to see. All right, so we've been able to land our solution. That is name1 is Kwame. And then we can use, so you see that because I didn't use the quotation marks, Python was finding it difficult for us to run or execute the code. And so if you are using or you are calling a string, make sure you bring that. It can lead you to hours of debugging, and then it will take most of your time. And so, yes, we've been able to run this, and we've gotten what? Kwame. If you want to run any other, the variable, we can just go back to this. We have just name1, and then we see whether we'll be able to run this. After running this, whether, let's take 2, and then we are going to get another name error because the name is not being defined in here. So we have name2, and then when we run, we have Kofi. So make sure that strings are being in quotes. I made this error last long because, one, it can save you from hours of debugging. This is one of the things that you can look at. When it is a string, treat it as a string. When it is an int, it's a float. When it's a bool, bool. All right, so let's go into our slides, and then we get to see that it's a labeled box, and then we have some samples of it in here. Sorry. All right. So yes, so we have a name. You can see that an example is a name having the string, and an age having 25. In the city is Tema, and then Ghana card ID, which is being in a string. So now you know place values in there. So you can see that a string is in what? Quote. An age, what data type is that? An integer. City, what data type is that? A string. ID, what data type is that? A string. All right. So let's go to the next one. So we have in here x equals 1 and then y equals any number. But before that, we are saying that we want to print x. So let's take x. We want to print x. So let's go to a new code. You come to your new block of code, and then we can run it from there. Please, if you are following, kindly let us know. So we have x equals, sorry, let's say x, what's happening? All right. X equals 25 or 26. And then we are saying that print x. If we want to print x, what do? How do we print x? We just call out the variable, and then the variable is not being put in any bracket. It's not being put in any quotation marks. And so I introduced something called the F strings. We are going to look at that, the formatted strings again. And so we have this, when we print this, we are going to get 26. But additionally, we are saying that y, we want to look at y too, right? And so we have y equals, we printed x and then x is 26. And so we can also say that we want to find y by y is x plus, or let's say y2 is 7. And then we are saying that print y. So when we print y, we are getting 26 and then 27. So this is how it is being represented. So we have the place value of 26 representing x as the variable, and then we have 7 representing y as the variable. And so that is very key for us to take note of. And let's continue from here. And so from this, we have x being 1 and then or maybe 2, and then we are introducing another thing in here, that is y. So from my screen right here, we have in here the script that we've written. We have the console, and then we have the variables, right? And then we can see that from the print, we have the first variable, that's x, we have y, x plus 3. So Python is going to calculate what is x. It prints x. X was 2. So y would be what? X plus 3. And then it is going to store the value as 2. All right, so let's look at something here. I want us to do an exercise right here. If you are with us, kindly open another tab in here. If you are with us, kindly open another tab in here. Let us know where you are joining us from. Let us know where you are joining us from, please. Okay, so we are saying that this is x, right? So let's say x, and then we have y. So this has been executed. So let's say we have a number, or let's say contact, right? We are saying we are creating a variable called contact, and then we are indicating, or we are placing the value of 059505137. 1347. All right, so this is a contact, right? The contact is the variable, and then the place value, what are we using there? 059, an integer. So we want to print contact, so we say contact, right? And then we hit our run. Okay, we are getting an error. Why? Because Python is saying that leading zeros in decimal integers literally are not permitted. Use an OO prefix for octennial integers. In other IDEs and in other works, we will realize that if we are to run this program in any IDE, Python is going to take off the 0 and then leave the other numbers, because Python will be treating it as what? A string. And then string, and sorry, so let's take, for instance, this. This is what, okay. Thank you. All right, so we have this. Okay, thank you. Please, a minute. All right. So we continue. Now, we have contact being stored as 05950513347. Why? It is being stored as a string because it will hold the value. But if it is being stored as an integer, Python will recognize that it will consider it as numbers. Because if you are adding numbers, you don't say 0, 1, 2, 3, let's say 050 plus 255. In that sense, if you are calculating something like this in normal mathematical form, 0437 plus 20, right? Python does not see this and calculates it for you because it sees this as invalid in an integer. When you are calling this and you want the 0 to appear, you use what? A string to store the value. And so that is it. Let's go to the next itinerary. And so we are looking at the phone number trap as part of our examples in here. So if you are with us, kindly let's look at that. And so, yes, the next thing we are going to introduce is the input and then let me get that. We are going to look at input and then print. We've already seen how we can see or output something on our screen using the print function. And then we are also looking at how we can receive a message from a user. And so if you want to receive a message from a user, what do? We still create our variable. So for instance, let's say name as our variable, and then we'll tell the user, input your name for us. But when you are calling the input too is a function, right? The same way we have the print or the output as a function, we have input too as a function. So you introduce your parentheses, right? And so we have input right in here, and then we are going to call on that or what we want the user to enter. So for instance, we can say that enter name. But from here, this is not a variable. So we would have to put it in a string. So it has to be like this, enter name. So we are going to execute this command in our code editor. That's Google Colab. So please, if you are joining us, we are currently using Google Colab. Kindly visit Chrome or Google Edge and then enter Colab, Google Colab, and then we'll take it from there. Wow. Okay, so we have this in here. Let's try that on our code editor. We have name as our variable, and then we have input. Input what? Input is a function. So we indicate our bracket and tell it enter your name. Okay, so enter your name with a semicolon. When we run this function, it is going to tell us enter your name, and then we can enter, your name is, let's say, Kingsley, and then I can hit enter, right? When I hit enter, we are going to run into nothing because we are not using the output print. So in this case, we can call out our print function and say that print with the function, this is Kingsley. So we are going to introduce the F string here and then call it, this is what? So we are calling name. So we are going to use the parenthesis name and then we get it from that side. So let's write our name again, Kingsley, and then we enter. So when we enter, we can see from our print that we have, this is Kingsley. All right, so these are some of the examples that we are looking at. Kindly take a close look at that. And also, we can see that there are times that we have, let's say, spaces in our text. You know that I made mention of Python as one of the languages that deals with space and deals with some punctuations, few of them, especially with calling a function. You need to bring the parentheses right in there. If you are calling a string, you need to bring your quote only for string. You need your quote in there. If you are calling an external string, this is how it's going to be like. But if we are calling a variable, we just call it because we are storing something in there. It is being assigned to what? A place value. And so let's get to work. Those on the call, please, are you with us? Let us know if you are with us. Please, we are using Google Colab. Google. Yes. Click new notebook. Yes, exactly. Please click new notebook. Kindly click new notebook. So this class will be recorded, and so take note that you can go back and then play it again so that you can be able to understand whatever thing is happening. I think some of us wouldn't be able to grasp everything at a go, but take note of it that we are actually recording. So it is going to be made available. You can go through again and then learn something very key from there. All right. We are using Google Colab, and then click new notebook. All right, so let's build something very key. We are going to look at how we can build a currency converter. And so if you want to convert a currency, what do we do then? We need some ideal conversion. So for instance, we have, we want to build our first program that is our currency converter, right? And we are saying that, let me delete this. All right, so our currency converter, we have in here some interesting thing that I would want to introduce you to is comment. Whenever you want to comment a code, we use this asterisk here, this hash symbol here. If you want to comment something, this is what we use. For instance, you want people to be able to read your code. You want people to be able to understand what you are doing. And so I earlier said that Python is being simplified and beginner friendly. And so if you want somebody to understand, we use comments. In any other programming today, they use comments. So comment, for instance, this. So I'm going to indicate that in my block. So I'm going to indicate hashtag. Which is the hash. This is the, let's say, currency converter. All right, and then we also have, it has been run, right? So when you go to the next line, we can say that this is for rate. So we can say that the rate McDonald from Accra. That's great. So we have rate as what? We have rate as, let's say, the rate of the currency, we have maybe 15.5, right? So we have this variable 15 rate, 15.5. And you remember that we made mention of the types of data in Python. So what kind of data is this? This variable here is storing the place value 15.5. What data type is this? Kindly guess that in the comment section. Let us see the answer. What type of data type is this? It's actually a float because there is a decimal point inside here, right? A decimal inside. So this is a float. And so let's go to the next one. We have our rate being identified. Or we can say that instead of having the comment above our lines, we can do inline comment. And then we can have it as this. So this is the rate. And then we can go to the amount that we want to convert. So let's say amount. The amount that we want to convert. And so we are saying that the amount we would want to allow users to enter their own amount. So because we are creating an application that converts currency from cedis to dollars, right? And so we are going to look at input. We are telling the user to input something, and so this is it, which takes a string text. So we are saying that enter the amount here, right? So we are giving this, and then we come to, we can also be able to see what the currency we are changing it to can be calculated. And so before you solve any problem, one of the key things is to make everything plain. We want to convert, so we are converting cedis to dollars, right? We are converting cedis to dollars. That's the first step. So let's write it in plain English. And so writing it in plain English, we call it, or we term it as pseudocode. So we are saying that convert cedis to dollars. And then the next thing we are going to do is to give the code, or is to give the instruction that code, the amount that we are going to use, the amount, this is a variable, so anything you can use any placeholder in there. So we are saying that the amount user should enter. User should enter amount. Should enter. And then the third thing that we are going to look at is that do the calculations. So we give it the calculation and then calculate. And then the last thing is print. So if you are able to make your points very plain and clear, when you are solving the problem or you are writing your code, it wouldn't be difficult for you to do it because you already wrote everything in here. So we have convert cedis to dollars. That's the main thing. We have users should enter the amount, enter amount. And then we are having calculate. And then how do we calculate? You know the formula for that. And then we have print. In other cases, or in the other classes that we are going to have, we are going to look at how we can import some math libraries and use it for our work. And so we are saying amount is enter amount here. And then we are saying that conversion, or let's use USD. So we are saying that the USD is amount divided by the rate, right? And then we are saying that we want to print what? USD for us. That is what we want to do. So we want to print USD. But in printing USD, we want it to be in, let's say, 2 significant figures. So what do? We can call it, okay, so let's run this, and then we'll see the number that we are going to get, and then we can change it to that. So let's run this and see. It says that enter amount here. So you can enter 50, and then it goes to the next line because we first made mention of rate as 15.5, and then we are entering an amount in cedis. So amount, enter amount in cedis here. So we are saying that the rate of $1 is equivalent to 15.5 Ghana cedis. So if you want to find that in USD, we've entered the amount of, let's say, 1,000 Ghana cedis, and then we can enter. Okay, so we are seeing something interesting here. Another type of error. So we have type error. It's saying that string and float being used at the same time. Now, we get to see that the rate is considered as an integer, right? Or sorry, as a float, because we have 15.5, which is considered as a float. And then we also have in here the input. But Python is seeing it as a string because we wrote in here, enter the amount in cedis. It doesn't matter the text you write in there. So far as you are requesting an input from a user, Python automatically sees it as a string. And so it doesn't perform mathematical duties on that. So what we have to do is to convert this into what? a float because we have an existing float in here. So what do? We made this a float. So in this, we consider this as a float, and then we introduce another bracket, and then we end it in the bracket. Oh, sorry. All right, so this is it. So in this, we are saying that the amount the user will be entering, right, it should be all rounded in a float. That is what we are trying to tell the variable in here. So we are saying that anything that the user should take, it should have the properties of float. At first, it wasn't like that. And so when we run the code, we are getting an error. So we are seeing that unsupported operand type or string and then float. And so now that we've introduced our float in here, when we run the code, we should be able to get a response. So we have 1,000, and then right from that, you can see that our 1,000 Ghana cedis is being converted, and then we have 64.51612 large number in there. And so we would have to consider how then can we make this in a two significant figure. So we just call out this, and then we name the variable to two significant figures. And then before we can do that, let's look at 2SF, whether we'll be able to get the answer, and then we'll see what the problem is. All right, so it's saying that invalid decimal. Why? Because it is considering this as a method. So we'll be looking closely into methods and functions. So method, how to identify a method, how to identify a function. And so let's introduce in here the yes, and then we'll have a two significant figure. You have this into SF, two significant figure. All right, so let's try having the F string, sorry. Oh, all right. And then we have this, okay, F, and then we have this as two significant figures. And so let's run this and see whether we'll be able to get. All right. So from here, we can see that when we introduce our formatted string, we had 2 USD, that's the dollar, and it's equivalent to 645. What's happening here? It is rather multiplying. Okay, yes, that's actually it. So we have in here that way. So let's continue with this. Yes, 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 yes. All right, great, 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 great. Yes, yes, float. Yes, float. Yes, float. All right, great. So let's continue in here. All right. So let's use just the USD one more time so that when you run, you just see. I want us to have that, sorry. Okay. Okay, so there has been an int, all right. Then we have our, okay. So let's run that again. Okay, we have 1,000, and then we have our number right showing there. So that is the example I wanted us to see. So you see the place value in there as part of the work. And then let's look at what we just built. You can look at that in different terms. So you can see that we had different units in there. The next thing we are going to look at is control flow statement. Let's take just a minute break, and then we'll be right back. Please stay tuned for the section 2. All right, so welcome back. We are looking at those leaving, please don't leave. If you are in, kindly join. All right, so let's look at the next section. We are looking at section 2. We're looking at section 2. Section 2. All right. So we have in here control flow. Control flow. So as the name depicts, what are we doing? We are controlling something. It is a flow of instructions that we are controlling. And so before that, I would ask to look at some key terms in here. We have if, elif, and then else, right? These are all control flow statements. And then we have comparison, that's the and or. So these are also part of it, and then or. We are going to look closely into that. And so looking at comparison operators, we have in here equal to, we have not equal to. So this is how we represent equal to in Python. We don't say name equals Kwame. In this case, Python is seeing this as a place value, and then it's seeing this as a variable. And so it knows that this is being stored in this. But the moment we introduce something like this, a double equal to, we are saying that this is this, right? And so we should take note of that. And then we have not equal to, we have not equal to, not equal to, we have greater than, we have less than, and then we have greater than or equal to, we have less than or equal to, or equal, right? So let's look at how control flow statements help us write our codes. So you can see that in our previous code, we were just writing variables upon variables upon variables and then executing them through the print function. But in the control flow statement, what we are doing is that, one, we are looking at how decisions are being taken. So for instance, you are building something or you are looking at a farmer. When a farmer grows crop or he actually starts production or growing crop, let's take that scenario. It is two scenarios, whether the farmer is going to have harvest or not. And so these things are the things that we should consider. Whether you pass exam or you fail the exam, in every field of work, there are two things that are involved. Either this or that. And so these are decisions. Either this or that or other thing. These are all control flow statements. And so we use if when we want to make a condition. So if is used for condition. And then we have here else if or elif. Elif. Elif is used when you use if, and then the answer you get in if is a false statement, right? So if is a false statement, then it comes down to what? Elif. But if you are using if, the word if, so for instance, in your code, we are saying that if Kwame, or let's say if Kwame, yes, is greater than 18 years old, right? If Kwame is greater than 18 years old, then what? You've not finished what you are supposed to do. If Kwame is greater than 18 years, then Kwame should be what? Should be an adult. Then we bring in our print statement right here. So we print in here Kwame, right? So we say that if Kwame is this one, then Kwame is an adult. But we want to give another scenario that if Kwame is greater than 18 years, he is being an adult. Or we can either use the if again. By using the if, it is going to give you the same, it is going to run the code for you, the same thing. Whether true or false, it will run. Whether true or false, it will run. Whether true or false, we are going to try that soon. It will run. But when we use the elif, when we instantiate Kwame, or let's say Kwame as 20, right? Kwame is 20. Now we are saying that if Kwame is greater than 18, Kwame is an adult. Right now, it concludes and say that yes, Kwame is indeed greater than 18 because Kwame is what? 20 years old. So we are having that as an adult. But if we have Elif here, and then we are saying that if Kwame is greater than, so from here, now we said that this statement will run, or this one will run when this is false. But when we have 18 here, it will run and give us response because it is true, confirming this. But when we have this as, let's say, 26, now we instantiated that Kwame is 20. And now we are saying that if Kwame is greater than 26, print adult. Now, the condition is not being met because Kwame is not greater than 26 or Kwame is 20. So what we are going to do is then go to the next line of code and then get to know. Else, if Kwame is greater than, let's say, 19, Kwame, print what? Kwame can. So let's say Kwame is what? A new breed. Let's say a new breed. Right? And so this is the response that we are getting there. So we are going to go into our code editor and then we will do something very great in there. So, but before that, let's look at the conditional statement on our screens right here. We are saying that we have the straight line of code and then we have the conditional statement. And so conditional statements are decision-based process that we take. So either yes or no, and then or either true or false. And then we also have in here loops that will be touched on later time. Loops is when you take a decision, but it runs through over again. So we have the for loop and then we have the while loop. We'll look at that in the next session. And then we have in here, so we have our loop. So we want to make at, so we are saying that, so let's go to our age checker. We are saying that we want the age of the user. So we are saying user input. And then we know that age is what? An int. Okay. All right. Okay, so we are saying that we want to see the user entering his name, age. So we are saying enter your age, right? So the user will enter his or her age, and then we'll take it from there. So we are saying that we are going to give a conditional statement. If age, so what did we use as the variable? We are saying if age is greater than, let's say, 60, then we should print what? Print out dot. So this is it. But in control flow statement, we should take note of one key thing. If introduces an extensive form of you talking about something. And so when you instantiate this, you bring in here a colon. So let's do that in that, and then we'll have that. So we have a colon here, but you could see that we have under our print in here with a red line. Why? Because there is an indentation problem. So the best way to solve this is to give out, whenever you write a Python code and then you are introducing conditional statement, make sure you have about 4 spaces in there. Or you can use the tab. So the tab key can do that. Where you click on the tab will be able to do that for you. All right. So that is it. We have in here the tab, which will be able to do that, or we hit on about 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And so we have this, and then we click on run. So when we click on run, and then we enter our age, we are saying that we are okay. Wow. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So we have enter your age, and then we have in here some error. Why? Why is the error popping up? We are saying that our age is 70, and it's saying that not supported between instance of a string and an int. So that is a type error. So the data type that we are talking about, it is not being supported by that. And we know that int, sorry, I've mentioned the answer. We know that an age is in numbers. So we have numbers 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 90, 50, 60, 70. These are all numbers. And then Python is reading this as a string. So what are we going to do? We are going to take this as an int, and then, or, yes, because that's our input. So we have to format our input and say that this is, hold on, all right. Oh, sorry. Oops. Yes. So now let's run it again and see whether we'll get 70. All right. So we can see that when we type in 70, we are saying that if your age is greater than 60, what are you supposed to do? Print as R dot. And then the user entered his age, that he is 70 years old. Definitely it should be what? R dot. But in here, we want to tell the computer, or we want to tell our program that we have multiple instances in there. So let's use in there another thing. We are going to use the if for us to see what will happen. So if age is greater than 50, right? Print as, sorry, print as middle class. Let's say middle class. All right. Sorry. Middle class. All right. So let's print this and let's see something right here. Okay. They are saying an unexpected error occurred. That is a syntax error. So I told you that whenever you are writing an instance, Python is expecting you to be expressive. And so we indicate the colon in there, and then we'll run it again and see. So our age is 60, right? When we said our age is 60, it told us that we qualify to be a middle class. Why? Because we made mention of 60 greater than 60. So if we use 60, we are going to have middle class as the answer. Let's try using else if. Now, else if will give us another response. So let's look at something here. What else if will give us? We are saying that 50. Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's run our prompt. We are saying 50. Okay, so when we run our prompt, we didn't get any response. Why? Because in else if, we are saying that if the condition on top is false, that is where the else if comes in. So we are saying that we want to check our age, and then we'll take another type of data in there. So we are saying that if our age is 60 years, we are saying that we are R dot. If we are R dot, then that is fine. Else, we can add another script in there. So we are saying that only 18 can go out of the house. Maybe you are setting rules for your child, or you are setting rules for this one. So we can have this as what? Let's say else age, with else you don't indicate anything there. So else print what? He is a minor. So we are saying minor. So if the person is greater than 18, so we are saying that 80, they are going to tell us that, let's try running what's happening. Okay, sorry. So his age is 80. So 80 is telling us R dot, right? So if we are to run again and use, let's say, 12 years old, it's going to tell us, or it's going to run the else script, because it is greater than or it is less than that. And so let's run the else script, and then we are getting that from there. Let me end this. Going to get, so let's say 12, and then we can take it. I think my internet. All right. Sorry. What's happening? All right. So when I use the 12, it's telling us that he's a minor or she's a minor. And so that is that for the conditions that we are supposed to have. And so that's basically that. And so, yes, we have how to use this conditional statement for some projects like Momo registration. We are saying that if you have the age of the person, and then if the person is having a Ghana card, what do you do then? We give an instance for that. The person is eligible for Momo. The person is not eligible for Momo. So you can try this. Let's pause for just a minute and then have this code and run this code and give me the response. Kindly capture whatever you see on the screen and run it, and let me see your response from that. Let me see your response from that. Let me see your response from that. Please subscribe. Please like as you do that. So what I want us to look at in this project is the end, and then we are looking at or. So with end means that both statements should be true. So we are saying that if you said something like this, then you say another thing. Both of them must be true so that we consider it in the next round. But for all, we are saying that at least. So this one is saying both must be true. Both must be true. Especially this is used in the verification process, two-step authentication. We are saying that if the person enters his password and then enters the two-step verification, grant him access. But if you are using or, you are saying that if the person enters password or enters an email, or let's say a two-step verification, a multi-factor authentication, then allow the person. And so at both sides, we should take note of that. And so that is basically for the two of them. And then we also have another project here that's build a grade classifier. So we are looking at still if and else statement in the control flow statement. And then the last thing that we are going to look at for today is the functions and loop. In fact, functions and loop helps us to be able to repeat code. Functions helps us to be able to write code and use them multiple times. We can use them in our code number of times, right? And so we are looking at how we can write functions, how we can return functions, and then the for loop. But we are going to touch one key thing from here, that is the for loop. So we have in here for loop. For loop. So with a for loop runs whenever a condition we want to run through a very sequence of list. So for instance, you have a list in right here. So we have a list, right? We have, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, when you are using for loop is specifically to run through each of the loop one after the other before condition is what? Being met. And so in a list like this, let's say a number, or let's say numbers, right? We are saying this is a list. If we want to use the for loop, what do we do then? We want this to run multiple times. So what do? We use the for loop, and then we call in an iterable. And then we say that we can use either any number. You can use any number or variable that you want. You use from here. So let's say we want to use for number in numbers, right? Print, then you instantiate. For number in numbers, print what? Our iterable again. Iterator, sorry. So this is an iterable, and then iterator, and then this is an iterable. Iterable. So when we say an iterable means that the number of lists that it takes for a condition to be met. So it runs through that for a condition to be met. And then we have the number as the iterator. So after the one after the other, this is going to be run. So we have print what? We have in here number. So there's a variable, so no need for this. So we say print number. So what does this thing do? It is going to run this 2, then the next thing 3, the next thing 4, the next thing 5. I'm going to use a scenario of loop as trotro. When you pick your trotro, you see that there are a lot of people in the car. And then a lot of people have different destinations that they will drop. The fact that you are dropping at a particular destination does not mean that everybody should drop there. And so everyone moves through destinations one after the other. And so we have somebody coming in 1. Maybe the person will drop at Achimota. The trotro must stop. So let's say we have how many stops on the road? We have Achimota, we have Circle, we have Pokwase. These are lists of what? Stops that we have. And so what do? We operate in helping one another, running through. And so from that angle, let's say we have Achimota as a list. So we are going to look at the multi-value data type. That is set and tuples and then list, so that we'll be able to understand more of this. But this is for illustration. So let's take note of it. So Achimota, we have Circle, and then let's say we have Pokwase, right? Pokwase. So this is how the trotro moves, or the transit bus, or any bus moves. Any point in time, there is a stop. So let's say these are the stops that we will be stopping at. So we want to run a loop, and then the loop runs through it step by step. So we have our printing in as Achimota will come first, Circle will come first, and then Pokwase will come second. And so we get to see that a list is an ordered. It is ordered. So it is an ordered variable that we have in there. So a list is always ordered, unless like the other ones, like set, which is unordered. A list is ordered. And so we get to see that in here. So we have, let's take an example with that. Let's take an example with that for our last example. So we have in here, let's say stops, and then we'll create a list for that. So in our next class, we'll have stops. We'll have stops, okay? So if you can see my screen, all right. So we have stops, and then lists are being created with what? Brackets. So we have Achimota, and we have, and a list, whilst we are using strings, we should make sure we have them in, we have Achimota, we have Circle, and then we also have, okay, I'm calling in, all right. We also have Pokwase. So these are the 3 stops that we are going to have. And then we are going to say that we are going to use our for loop. We are saying that for stop in stops, we are using print, sorry. Okay, so syntax error, incomplete output. Yes, I see that. So we are going to print what? Print is the function. So we are going to print stop. So we are going to see how a loop works. And then we can bring, all right. So we can see that we have Achimota, Circle, Pokwase. In this case, you see how simple the code is? We could have written this code in another form where we would instantiate it with stop 1. So we can say that stop 1. We can say that stop 1. Stop 1 is Achimota. Stop 2 is what? Circle. Stop 3. Stop 3 is what? The next one, Pokwase. And then we'll say that print. Because we've instantiated with this, with this and this variable with two, circle and this with this, we would have to call all of them with their print functions to be able to see them on the screen. So we'll have print, yes, step 1. Then we'll go to next, print, step 2. Step 2. And then we'll have another print, step 3. And so you can see that how long this code is. It is being simplified using loop because it runs through that. Okay. All right. So that is for functions and loop. And so we can see that Python has a very vast language, and then it has a very vast function libraries. We can see some built-in functions by Python. We've been able to use the print function, we've been able to use the input function, and then we've been able to look at, I think these are the two functions that we've been able to look at. The len function, which is the length, that is mathematics. We are going to look at that one too, and the length of a text. So we can look at that, the type of a data structure, or sorry, the data type. We'll look at data structure in our advanced class. And then we'll also see the third-party libraries like pandas. I introduced that earlier on. And then we have user-defined functions. So you can create your own function. You see how beautiful it is to use Python. You can create your own function. And then we get to see that Python has a very large standard library that we have built in, and we have built-in models. When we say model, what is model? Model is an already written script that helps you to be able to what? Build upon existing programs. So for instance, if you want to build a program on, let's say, a text-to-speech program, what you do is just you call on an API, or you call on an existing library for that. And so that is basically for it. Please, if you have any question and answers, kindly let us know in the comment section. If you are still with us, kindly let us know in the comment section. All right. So yes, if we are not having any questions, I want to encourage you that yes, you've done it. You've done it. You come through. You did a great job by sitting behind the computer. And we have another thing that I would want to encourage you: practice, practice, and practice again. And then I have a surprise for you guys, right? I have a surprise gift for you. This gift is an interesting thing that I want us all to take note of. We are running our bootcamp in July. And this is going to be one of the master classes that you've ever been to. I believe this class was one great class session that helped you to do whatever thing that programs are curated for us to do. But we also have our upcoming bootcamp that is coming in July. I would want us all to register, and I'll place the link in the Telegram group. So it is going to be a 3-day camp, boot camp, going for a free tier of students, where the students, you'll be paying 500 Ghana cedis for the early bird, and then professionals are paying just 800 Ghana cedis. But the standard admission is actually 1,500 Ghana cedis. So you can imagine how it has been discounted to this. And so I would encourage you. But if you are registering within 48 hours, I would encourage you that the price is going for a cool 350 Ghana cedis. And so if you want to enroll in now. I believe this class was a blessing. Let's have a wonderful time together. Good evening once again, those who joined. So, all right, guys. So, welcome back. I would entreat you all to have a good evening. But as I was saying, I would entreat you guys all to subscribe to the channel, and then those interested in taking Python to the next level, this bootcamp is for you. This July we are rocking so hard, and then we are going to build a lot. So if you are interested in building something real, automating tasks and making something great, this is for you. God bless you all for joining, and God bless us all and make us great and strong. Bye.